All righty. So here we go. We are Torah Samach. We are holding by Seif Tov, a shtickle Chazor that we said basically that there are paths of amazing insight into Torah that one cannot achieve without acquiring a great amount of wealth, the Kedusha. And we said Moshe Rabbeinu was very wealthy, Rabbeinu HaKodesh, that put the Mishnahs together was very wealthy, and Rav Ashi was very wealthy, and so forth. The Nevi'im were wealthy. All those that had the entire Torah had to go through them, they needed great wealth, especially we're talking about the Torah Shebechtav, the Torah Shebenigla. So they need physical wealth. You see, it's a Torah talking about more of a spiritual wealth. The only way to get to it is through what they call Tikkunei Atik, the rectification of the highest level, Sfiras HaKeser. It's called Atik. That's how the Torah started. Shimon Yochai, in the Idra, the Kadisha speaks about the Tikkunei Atik. And okay, so how do I get to make Tikkunei Atik? I mean, I don't even know what Atik is. I'm supposed to make Tikkunei Atik. It's a bit rich. So the way to do it is when a person lengthens his days, widens his days, which means not that he goes to the gym every day, but that he is adding more Kedusha every single day to the best he can. Some days, you can't even get out of bed, and some days, you have Gewalt the Moichin and you can learn everything, whatever it is. But each day, whatever it is, you starts narrow, and you widen it, make it wider. That's called a long day. That's called longevity. It's called zokin of oldness. Shebekdusha. We say that, and the way to this older Shebekdusha, this is the tool with which you can actually obtain and withhold the shiur Shebekdusha. That's the wallet. It's the crypto wallet. Shiur Shebekdusha is that's arichas yomi. That's and the way to get this shiur, this arichas yomi, is through yira. We explained this yira has three facets. Is the Gdula of Kodesh Baruch Hu, and is learning Torah with great yira. In other words, you learn in order to keep the Torah, not just to be, become a Torah professor or any one of the manifestations thereof. And the last one is the yira should also be on your money. Business should be done honestly. The reason why a person should accumulate wealth is not in order to buy himself a Lamborghini, but in order to be zeicha to the arichas yomi, for his bonus in the Torah. And the third part, it's not a person should know that the money that was given to you is for you to give it away. Anything that you give away remains yours. Anything that's in your pocket, you'll leave behind, or push comes to shove. But it says, okay, so we have established the fact that you need a yira that basically, is like applicable to every single facet of your life. Somebody knows pondering this, Kodesh Baruch Hu, yira in learning, yira in your money. So how do you get yira? So we said, Rabbeinu says this is done through Pkidas HaKoros. In other words, making it possible for the barren to bear a child, whatever it is. Pkidas HaKoros. Those who could not bear, Now I'm able to bear. Went through a great deal. What is actually mean? The Rebbe says that there are people that sleep their days. They look like they're learning, they're davening, they look like they're doing it. They have long payas, they have long beard, they have the whole thing. You got it from A to Z. They got the whole shebang. But they're asleep. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have nachas ruach from there with them. Which means that void of their Torah and the mitzvahs, we said it quite a few times before, does not ascend, does not go up. What does it mean doesn't go up? Means that enchinami, this person is yotze by himself, Baruch Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu is happy, you did your mitzvahs, you're yotze. Also put on film, you put on film, Baruch Hashem, put film today. Torah today, down 3,000. But basically you were sleepwalking through it. Means the mind was not involved. The heart was not involved, the mind was not involved. The mind is called planet. There's chokhmas odov, the wisdom of a person, Torah Panamu, and enlighten his countenance, his panim, his the countenance, the panim, is the wisdom of a person. If a person does something, willy-nilly, it's like, okay, it's like, listen, I'm going to wake in the morning, what's supposed to do? You got to stop. No, you got to stop. You go to shop, but I'm fair, okay, come on, man, let's just go. What about Karbonis? I said it at home already. Just move. It means you're sleeping your life. So, as we will learn, that this is a bechina of being barren, of not being able to give birth. You live your life, but you're very much, that person is very much like a barren woman that doesn't give birth, because the main offspring of tzaddikim is Torah Basmutayim. What does it mean? It means that Kadosh Baruch Hu created us, to rectify not just this world, but also the spiritual world, all the spiritual world, all the way to Olam Abriya, everything. Everything depends on your avodah. Enochinam, yourself, you're fixed, as it were. You weren't over Isser, you're Yotze the Mitzvah, you shop a lulav, on Torah, you went to show, not film, whatever. Keep Shabbos, everything is fine. But the Kadosh Baruch Hu enjoys it up to a point, but beyond that, it's like you're sleeping. And the idea is that you have to wake a person who is sleeping in days. You have to wake him. Benu said, this is what we learned before, that what is the thing that makes a person fall asleep? The spiritual sleep. Obviously, first of all, is tivus, ma'asim averis. It coarsens a person, and he loses his face. He loses his connection to Kadosh Baruch Hu. The real panim, the real seichel, is a connection with Hashem. The more a person goes off, off track, the less connected he becomes. Rebbe said there's also another thing that causes a person to lose his face, to lose his chokhmah that is embedded in his mental faculties. That is by eating something that hasn't been purified enough for Jewish human consumption. It starts with something that is not totally ripe, l'maisa, or a behem, or a chicken that was not shechted properly, or whatever it is. And it goes on and on and on. You have to give all the trumas, all the maisas, whatever it is that needs to be done with this. But when it comes to you, that you should eat it in order to get koyach ta'avodas Hashem. Now, that's called that you're eating foodstuff that has been purified enough for human consumption. Now, A person can eat something which is glad kosher, no problem. You know, working today on milk substitutes, that they're making in factories. It actually, they take, like milk molecules and they make milk in factories. And that milk is parv.
Uh-huh. Not from a cow.
It's not from a cow. Cow free, as they say. When you hear about it, you say, man, I'm just waiting until they get to butter. Once they get to butter,
Also, meat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Once they get to butter,
Right.
you put the steak, in this, and then you melt the butter, and then you put the garlic in it, and the rosemary, and you baste it. You can do the whole thing. This is something that means that you're eating a food that has not been purified to human consumption. Kosher, 100% kosher. It makes you lose your face. Not what they call in Asia, you make me lose face, which means you don't respect me. What's to respect me? When you lose face, that's not what it means. Lose face means you lose the chokhmah that connects you to Kadosh Baruch Hu. So a person is asleep. So how do you wake him up? So Rebbe says that, first of all, the first step is that a person needs to do the first waking on his own. Once he's waking up, then you start telling him stories. Sipurim Maisis. Supposed to tell him stories. And these stories, embedded in these stories, is a Torah, a very, very high and exalted Torah. Why can't you just tell him the Torah? Why have to tell him stories? The stories are, parables and shalom and this and that. Why just cut to the chase, tell him Torah? So they said that there are three reasons for that. Reason number one is it's like a blind person who could not see for years. He had darkness in front of his eyes. Then he went to a doctor, he went through an operation, whatever it is, now he can see. Wonderful. For shame. But you can expose him to light. He'll go blind again immediately. So, you have to, cover his eyes in a dark room, a little, introduce him to light little by little so that he gets used to the idea of seeing the light. Same way, you can't just show a person his face, because each person is his own face, which means his own inner chokhmah, which is his connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That means that's your real face. The person may not realize it, but every single person has his own particular chokhmah. And when that chokhmah is shining to a person, then a person is very active. He has feel it, you're motivated, you're doing it, But if it doesn't shine, so you don't just the first thing is you have to introduce the light of the poem gradually. That's the first thing. The second reason is because when a person gets a great illumination, suddenly he gets moichin. Moichin is the wisdom within the mental faculties. It's an expanded consciousness. It's a great light. Together with great light come the clippers, come the husks. With great wisdom come great fantasies, great imagination. I can already do this, and that's how they should know. I don't want to tell you. I'm a shiur. Don't tell me that's me. So together with great light come great fantasies. So the first reason is that if the actual face of a person would be shown to the person flat out, so together with the great light, which is not incapable of processing right at this moment because he's just waking up, right? So it'll come big demyonis, big fantasies, big shtuyot, that's the second reason. The third reason also has to do with klippos, also the b'chitzah. And these are, because the thing is that the klippos, the second reason, during the second reason, the reason why the klippot would come, because they see, hey, somebody's receiving light, and somebody's leaking light from all the pores because it doesn't have the vessels to contain those lights. Time for us to go and have a good meal, because the klippot feed off, the bottom feeders. They are feeding off whatever it is that you cannot contain. Any light of kedusha a person cannot contain that spills off. This is where they suck from. This is where they. And the third reason is also has to do with klippot. And this is when a person's asleep, he has simple understanding, simple kalim, and the klippos are around him. They're feeding him, like they have they have a fish. It's like a parasitic fish that sticks to whales, sticks to sharks. So the various, whatever it is, and wherever it is, they have this thing on top of their heads. They stick to the whatever it is that the carrier.
Mutual relation.
Mutual relationship. What I mean is whatever it is falls off from the shark doesn't eat. It falls off, so they eat from it. There's nothing much is mutual from that. It's not the kind of relationship that the crocodiles have with birds. That they pick their teeth or whatever it is. There is such a thing. But we're talking about just guys, freeloaders that just come. And the thing is, these fish are so persistent. They come and you cannot just say no. It's like the mafia. You can't say no. They just come and until finally you get tired. That's not go ahead, just stick and and have a free meal. No, they won't take no for an answer. That's the klippot. Wherever it is that you are, you have these. I don't know what it calls. What is this fish called? Okay, whatever it is. Anyhow, this kind of freeloaders, the klippot. Now the thing is that if they would see that you get this tremendous light in your life, means you're going away. No. You ain't going nowhere. Says who? Says we. You're ours. You belong to me. You belong to us. We're feeding off you. You're paying protection to us. What are you protecting us from? From somebody like us. We don't like other klippot, you're not going anywhere. So what happens is that the moichin are introduced in a story, embedded in a story. Well, just okay, there's nothing to worry about. You can listen to stories. I mean, you listen to stories, watching movies all day anyhow. Go ahead, listen to another story. But the thing is that these stories have in them extremely high Torah. Sometimes it's stories, sometimes it's a Torah. Sometimes they show a person his own face, sometimes they show a face, a moichin, a chokhmah, a divine wisdom, which is way beyond his pay grade, because that's the only thing that's going to wake him up. And sometimes it's you can say a simple Torah, but within that simple Torah is embedded a much, much higher Torah. A Torah that can wake a person up. So what that does, I mean, as far as the chisonim are concerned, You're the same old, just listening to a story, like you usually do. But the story that you're listening now, unbeknownst to them, is waking you up and actually giving you a camouflage. It gives you a mask. Now you don't recognize you. So you're able to go away. You're able to escape. Invisible clock, whatever you want to call it. Now you have to understand. We listen to these stories and we don't even realize what it is that we hear. We don't know what kind of inner Torah is hidden in that. The only thing we know is that it wakes us up. Suddenly we get motivated. We get moving. It's the only thing that we know. Because when you're asleep, you have to get to a person who's just waking up, who's still not ready for the light. You're telling him a story. Within the story touches seriously, wakes up certain things within him that he doesn't even realize. The only thing that he realizes suddenly is interesting. He says, you know something? Yeah, I'm going to go for that. Now, there are 70 facets of the Torah. Shivim Panim Torah. Shivim Panim is called Shivim Shana. 70 years. A Shana is not called because there were 12 months that passed, and then, the earth around the moon, and the moon around the earth, and the sun, and all. It's not about that. Shana is from the terminology of shoina, of different. Every single year, Kadosh Baruch Hu runs the world completely different. That's called Shana. It's Mishuna, it's different. There are 70 facets, 70 ways to understand the Torah. We mentioned that we can see by the Rishonim various sugyas in the Gemara. I learned in maybe 2 ways, maybe the Ramban, maybe Rashi, maybe the Rif, the Ramban, whatever it is that they learn it in a certain way. That's their mahal. That's one facet is ponim in the Torah. Then it goes down, to the Achrayim, which they introduce the way to Paskin Halachas, and this is how the Paskin Halachas. Today we may have 2 or 3, maximum 5 facets of the 70. The rest is lost. Halacha remains, but all these ponim are lost. At see that Torah Tishtaka from Israel, the Torah will be forgotten from Israel. That's the 70 facets of the Torah. And your facet, your ponim, your countenance, your facet is one of them. So the way that person is awakened by this is when he's being told a story from within the 70 years. The 70 facets, the 70 ponim of the Torah. Each one represents certain, intellect, wisdom of Kadosh Baruch Hu, and sometimes belongs to you. Sometimes they show something higher than your madrega, and so forth and so on. And now Rabbeinu says, יש כמה בחינות, בזה שמשאיר הפונים, is what we said, וזה בחינות, השם פעלך בקרב שואלים חייהו. Hashem, פעלך, your deeds, in other words, maisias, right? פעלך, פעולה. Hashem פעלך בקרב שואלים, within the realm of 70 years, chayehu. Rashi says, what is chayehu? Or reu, wake him up. Zeu pe'alcha sipurei maisias. Hashem, your deeds, we're talking about synopsis. The Kerev Shonim, this Rebbe says, the Bechinas Maises Shel Shivim Ponim, that's the message of the 70 facets. Shem Shivim Shonim, that's 70 years, the 70 different facets of the Torah. The Sipurim Maises, the person being awakened, once he wakes up from by himself, then he's being told stories in order to wake him up fully. The Maises of the Shivim Ponim. The Chayahu, Rashi said, or Rehu wake him up, that they inject vitality, and they wake you up by the use of Sipurim Maises. Basically, it's communicating with hidden nooks and crannies of your neshama, and waking it up, in a stealthy way from the inside. It's almost like a hacker that goes into a computer. Probably it's like make it do things. Yeah. There are those who follow from all the 70 facets of the Torah. Gone. Is cooked. It's not possible to wake this person up with any facet of the Torah. The only way that you can wake this person up, you can reach him. He's so lost. The only way that you can reach him is through Sipurim Maises or Shonim Kadmonius. It means of yesteryears, years of ancient times, years of beyond time. So we just learned, that what is Bekerev Shonim? That there is a spiritual realm, there's a structure, which is called Zer Anpin. It's called the small face. That's a sphere from Chesed all the way to Yesod. So the Zer Anpin, this is the Shivim Shonim. This is 17 years. Zer Anpin is called Odom. Hashem Havaya Baruch was in Tiferes. This is the Bekerev Shonim. You have Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Chol, Yesod. In Zer Anpin, there are all the 10 Sefirot. Now, what happens if somebody falls from all the 70 points? In other words, from the Maises, from Zer Anpin, he cannot be awakened. So you have to tell him Sipurim Maises that emanate from Atik, from the Keser. Keser is beyond time. Zer Anpin is within time. Keser is beyond time. It also has spheres. As Chesed, as Gvura, as Tiferes. But the thing is that the Chesed, there is in Bechinas Atik, is called Rav Chesed. We say in Shloshes Amidas Rachel, right? Hashem Kel Rachon, Rav Chesed Yemes. Rav Chesed means that's the Chesed of Atik, of Keser. These are the 10 Sefirot that belong to Keser. These are not the 10 Sefirot of Atik. We have 13 Midrash Rachamim that come from Atik, from the Keser, and also we have, Moshe Rabbeinu says after Chet HaEgel, Moshe Rabbeinu mentions 9 of them. The 9, they come from Zer Anpin. The Midrash of Rachamim that belong to Zer Anpin are 9. The ones that come from Keser are 13. What's the difference between the two? I explained this one before, please, that the Rachamim of Zer Anpin is like the leeway that a court has. Let's say a person was found guilty. Okay? So if he's found guilty, what is he going to get? Well, the court has a leeway, from, I don't know, a community service or pending this up to 5 years, 7 years, whatever it is. And the court has the latitude, to give like this, to give that according to the way that they see. That's the rachamim of Zeranpi. That's the 9 midas rachamim. The 13 is rachamim. Here we're talking about presidential pardon, which means you might be guilty as sin. I mean, they might have caught you with blood on your hands. If you happen to be the son of Joe Biden, all is forgiven no matter what. Even though that we don't know what you did, it's also forgiven. So that it all depends. Why? Because it says Kel Rachon V'Chonun. It says V'Richam. Rashi says V'Richamti. Et Asher Arachem Chanot Asher Rachon. I will pardon. I shall pardon. V'Richamti Asher Arachem, and I will have mercy upon those who I will have mercy upon. Actually, sounds as if I'm actually being picky. Like if I don't like you, I won't. It means an overpowering power to pardon, which cannot be overturned by the legal system. That's a 30 midas rachamim. So when a person falls into a slumber, from the 70 facets, he can be awakened from Sipurei Maisis, whatever it is, that emanate from the 70 facets of the Torah. But if a person is so lost, that you have absolutely no connection anymore, the only way that you can wake him up is through Sipurei Maisis Misharim Kadmonius, of beyond time, of Rav Chesed. It says, יש נפל מכל 70 פונים, עד שאי אפשר לעורר בשום אופן. כיוון די סיפור המעשה של שונים קדמוניות, שכל 70 פונים, 70 שונים, מקו חייס משם. All the 70 facets, they receive their chayas from the Keser Elyon. All the matters that are within years, within time, they receive their chayas from the Rav Chesed, which is beyond time. This is a madrega of the Torah and the Bezat Hashem we will learn in the future. Because right now, this is why the Jewish neshamas are superior to the malachim, to the angels. Because the angels can only perceive connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, can learn which means can learn Torah and perceive connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu within reason, within confines. That's why this says, there's malachim, it's called srafim, that, that they surge towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they say Kodesh once and they get burnt up. Why they get burnt up? Because they don't have the kelim to contain that kind of kedusha. The minute that they go beyond that, they meet that kedusha, this overwhelming kedusha, they just disappear. But we are B'ezrat Hashem destined to know HaKadosh Baruch Hu the way He wants to be known, which is beyond the confines of any definition. And we cannot understand that. The only one who could understand this, who actually received it in this world, was Moshe Rabbeinu, just before he passed away. There are 49 gates of Bina, of comprehension. The Torah, the Moshe Rabbeinu gate, comes from that. The 50th gate, which is that Rav Chesed that we're talking about, is no human being was able to get it properly this way except Moshe Rabbeinu. And he also, just before he left this world. But we also have, the time of Purim. After Tu B'Shvat, right? We have Purim is coming. Arizal said that Mordechai is the Gematria Rav Chesed. Why Mordechai is Gematria Rav Chesed? What's the point in that? Why does Mordechai needs to be Rav Chesed? Which means that Mordechai had access to this of Atik, of the 50th gates of comprehension. The answer is because Haman Amoni, he brought down the Gzera, from the 50th gate of Tumah. The Am Yisrael in Mitzrayim fell to the 49th gate of Tumah. Because Baruch Hu took them out quickly before they fell to the 50th gate. 50th gate is apikorsis. There is atheism to the point that you'll never ever get. A person never ever gets to a Buddha. That's secret that Haman built a gallows that was high, 50 cubits. Because Haman was a big mechashef, he knew what he was doing. And he brought about a decree that was sealed from the 50th gate. 50th gate, Am Yisrael cannot overcome. So Mordechai had to bring down Yeshua from the future, from the Osid level. Shara Chamishim of Kedusha, which is what? Which is Atik, which is what? Which is Rav Chesed. Also Mordechai, Gematra Rav Chesed. And the tzaddikim, they tell Mises that are capable. They have a negia with this level of Atik. They're able to bring the stories from there. It says there's a Bchinas Atik that all the 70 faces receive from there. Says that's the Bechina of Atik. That's the persona, the spiritual persona called Atik Yomin, this Kesser, the Bchinas Zaken, this Bchinas oldness that we said before, Bchinas Hadras Panim, that's a splendor of the face. This is what is splendor of the face. He says that's the Zaken, right? That's the beard. Hadras Zaken shows Zaken, of the beard. And that's why the 13 meters of Rachamim, of Atik, is called 13 rectifications of the beard. Place Tikun Dikna, of Zaken, of Zikna, Bichus Yomen. This is the Tikun of Atik Yomin. Zeh Bechinas V'Rav Chesed. And this is Bechinas V'Rav Chesed, we just said. Whenever somebody learns one halacha with his student, he teaches him his chesed with him. As Chazal said, whoever it is that prevents his talmid from serving him, as if he prevents him access to chesed. Understand that in the old days, all they had is the 24 books of the Bible. That's it. Everything else, all the halacha, all the mishnayos, all the brises, everything else, all the midrashim, everything was Baal Peh, everything was by heart. The only thing that was written is just 24. So the thing is, the Talmud would learn and learn and learn. Baruch Hashem was Rebbe again and again and again. But how exactly do you do it? So there's certain halachas you can learn mismedrash, right? Rav goes with halachas, teaches you this, that, so and so. But what do you do when you wake up in the morning? How do you wash neglavas? You step off the bed, you don't step off the bed, you sit on the ground, how long? When you come home, you say hello to your wife, you say hello to your wife. What kind of, and when she nags you, how do you react? These are things that you need to learn. You can't learn in the Mishnah. So what is the Talmud going to do? He's going to follow his Rav no matter where he goes. So the solution is he's going to serve him. He's going to bring his food, his shoes. He's going to, walk with him to the mikveh. He's going to carry his clothes for him, his towel, whatever it is. He said, and while this is going on, he's going to watch his Rebbe, how he behaves and how he conducts it. It's called Ma'aseh. This is how do you learn Salah? If somebody does not let his Talmud be mishamash him, serve him, you're not letting him learn from you how you actually mekayem the halachas. In everyday life. There's a kol v'nei talmidim shasha. Anybody who prevents or pushes away his Talmud from serving him is like he is pushing him away from getting chesed. So the halacha is p'china chesed. As Chazal said, shimush chachomim, serving chachomim. Today, when somebody becomes a rav, they say, before he gets the smicha, right? They say, you're the yadim. He has to spend a period of time, which he follows. He stays together with the rav. And he sees how the rav passes halachas. We just come to this, come to that. And that companionship, I remember Rav Vosner used to be in Rav Stern, the Av Bezdin after him, used to stand next to him, and every single thing, say Allah, whatever it is, it would come to him with this, and with that, people would come to him with different shilas. He stood right next to him, and he would hear what Rav Vosner would paskin, like this or like that. And that's called shimush. That's called service. Today, this is what's called service. You can't be a Rav unless you're actually served. In other words, you're apprenticed. By a Rav, you stood right next to him and you heard how he paskin something like this and that. Sometimes you need to take a look at why is this like this? Why do you paskin like this? Why that? He wants to know. This is how he learns, the subtleties. How you paskin halacha. You can't become a Rav unless, you just learn Shulchan Aruch, Baruch Hashem. Wonderful, all the sekelim, you learn everything, the perushim, you know everything. But you don't know it in real life unless you actually, follow Rabbi Shimush Chachamim. Chacham is a pchidas halachas she'atal mekabel me'arav. This is the halach the Talmud receives from the Rav. Nimtza, so it is therefore found shema sharav lo medim talmida, that's which the Rav learns with his student. The pchidas chesed is going. When a person is being awakened, if when the Rav is awakening a person with one facet, one face, one countenance of the 70 that's cooking with him, your deeds, your ma'aser is going to awaken him from a ma'aser of a bekerev shaman, those within the 70 years. That's called a regular chesed. As we said before, this is the chesed of Zeranpin. Now you're going to a way, way, way beyond. Chesed chines atik, ki kol hapanim v'kol hachasodim mekablim misham. Because all the faces and all the facets are received from there. Just to sort of wrap it up, we can see in the pashas of last week and the year before and the week before and 2 weeks before, a certain manifestation of this particular principle. Yosef tells the Shvatim they're supposed to bow down to him. They're supposed to be received from him. And compared to what he needs to reveal to them, they were actually sleeping their lives. You can say it about Shiftei Kah, right? But vis-a-vis Yosef, they were sleeping their days. So when he told him to turn the way it is, you're supposed to bow down to me. Even the Shemesh and Yerech, even the Yaakov Avinu Yochel, he and his mother, you're not supposed to bow down to him. It's like Moshe Rabbeinu says he's the prophet, he's the father of all prophets, those that came after him and those who preceded him. Moshe Rabbeinu is the father of Avraham Avinu. In the prophecy of Avraham Avinu, is the father prophecy of Yitzchak. And he came later. Everything has to receive from Yosef. That was Rebbe Nachman. They settled to Mitzrayim, Shamayim, and everything that happened afterwards is Sipur Meisis, Mishanim Kadmonis. He goes, he becomes a slave, and he has to go through the test with Potiphar's wife and stuff like that, and then becomes a king of Mitzrayim. And then there has to be a famine, and his brothers has to come to him, and they bow down to him. They don't even know that it's him. It's all Sipur Meisis, Mishanim Kadmonis. Until it get to the point, they keep on getting more and more and more. Until he gets to Vayiga Shalom Yehuda, and Yehuda approaches Yosef with total Mesiras Nefesh. When he actually comes to Yosef with total Mesiras Nefesh, Yosef is not able to hold it back anymore. Which means, finally, they were awakened. They're awakened sufficiently. What happens is, the Geula comes, Ani Yosef. Now they're ready. They went through all the tikkunim of the Sipur Meisis. They took to them, and then he says, you're thieves, you're ganavim, you're raglim, you're this, bring me your brother, take your brother. The whole thing is Sipur Meisis, Mishanim Kadmonis. And through this, they become more cooked, more ready, until they finally come to the point that that's it. Yehuda, which is the Malchus, is Moshe Nefesh. Says, take me. Now you got it. Now you get Mizat Hashem. You get the turf. Now you're awake. Now Yaakov can come to Mitzrayim. So forth and so on. Give you help with Mizat Hashem. Good Shabbos. And we should know that everything happens to us in our lives is basically Sipur Meisis, with which the tzaddik embeds the lesson that we need to learn. The tzaddik is, we study something. The first step is you have to wake up on your own. Once you wake up on your own, then the stories will wake you up. But if you don't start the process, nothing happens.
Just sits idle. Just sits there idle.
Yeah. You can't do the whole thing. Can't do the whole thing for you. You have to wake up. Shem Yazon, Western should wake up. Go to Shabbos. Go to